What's up, everyone? Tyler Tamboline here, aka Toe Tag and Tambo. We're back. We're doing another one of these Showdown shows. New feature here over here at Run Pure Sports. Of course, this show is free. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe if you guys want to keep up to date with all the content that we've got going on. We're going to do another one of these shows tomorrow night. Got my boy Snyder here with me. Tuesday, Wednesday show combination, mixing up. I miss you, Snyder. So it's happy to have you back. We are going to have Big T join us here in a little bit. But Snyder, what's going on, man? And how was the cut sweat for you?
Yeah, it was an interesting cut sweat here coming down the stretch. I was kind of fading a couple guys. One of them made the cut in Ron, but I mean, it was an interesting day. We had some guys really go low today. I think we had 12 guys shoot 66 or lower, so definitely was more attackable than I thought coming in. And they made some comments about how they want to make it more firmer and faster going into the weekend. So I do think it's going to play tougher going into the weekend, like I kind of hit on yesterday some, but interesting. And we should have a fun finish here. I mean, JT's playing lights out. We got a couple young guns up top. Just a great overall leaderboard going into this weekend.
Yeah, I got Cam Young. Of course, the talk of the tournament right now is Joaquin Neiman, just out there crushing it, man. It looks like he can't be stopped. We'll see about that. We're definitely going to get into the tier-by-tier plays later for the Round 3 Showdown. There's a $20 over on DraftKings tomorrow with $100K up top. And if you want to save a little bit on the bankroll, you can drop down. They also have an $8. It's only about 5,000 people in that one, so you still time to get into that one, but it's $8 with $10K up top. That'd be pretty nice for a Round 3 Showdown contest anyway. So we'll talk about the tiers later on. We'll do the same thing you and Hoop did last night, where we go through it sort of three tiers, right? The 10K down to the 9, the 9 to 7,500, then 7,500 and below. But yeah, cut sweat wise, I mean, going through some of the names, right? Just to name them off here, recapping it, but like Connors, the Luke List experience was something for sure. I know people had a lot of Luke's List, myself included, so that one stung. Kind of used to it by now, so a little bit numb to it at this point. But Thomas Peters, Seamus Power, a couple guys we talked about last week for different reasons, but we figured Peters would be popular. Put up a good effort, but not enough to make it. Bubba made a mistake on 17, so didn't come through there. And then the big names, Brooks, DJ, those guys sort of packed it in early. Sam Burns, a little bit of a downward spiral. Any of these guys, I'm going to try and buy some time here a little bit to let Big T get on, Snyder. But any of those guys, your thoughts on them, just because people were so high on them coming into this tournament, and now we're going to get to Round 3, but just to recap it a little bit beforehand, what are your thoughts on those guys before we talk about some of the leaders?
Which guys? I was sending a tweet out right here.
Big names that missed the cut, right? DJ, Brooks. You know, it looked fat. We heard Fast and Firm. We saw him play pretty good last week. Brooks is the example where we were at the WMPO course where he has great history, 2 wins. Came back, looked like he was back, and then, of course, misses this. DJ, this course history. This is twice now. Not with DJ this time, but remember Finau a few weeks back. Oh, the course history expert and everything that goes with it. Never had worse than a top 10, and all of a sudden, boom, gone he was. And same thing for DJ here. So some of the thoughts on the guys that missed the cut, some of the bigger names at least.
Yeah, so Brooks was like -2, I think, through 11 holes yesterday, and then he hit a couple shots, and then you could just kind of see his body tempo. Like he just was like almost like done with it. And then he comes into today. He makes birdie on his first hole. Then he pars that easy par 5 11th, and then you could just see it again. He bogeys the next hole. Par, bogey again, and then on the back nine, he just completely ejects and makes 3 bogeys like we see sometimes from him. As if he's not going to be in it to win it, he doesn't have any remorse about missing the cut and taking the weekend off, and him and Jen are probably going to be down at the beach or something like they like to. But yeah, with DJ too, I mean, that was interesting. I had some DJ, and I was thinking that he was going to kind of make a run today. I mean, didn't start out well for him on the back nine. He ends up shooting a 40 on the back nine, but then on the front nine, he starts out 1, 2, and 3 with birdie, and then birdie's the last hole, but it's too little too late. I thought he was decent ball striking this week. The putter wasn't there for him today. Yesterday, he broke even putting, but the irons weren't there for him yesterday, and we hit like 50% of his greens yesterday. Today, he hit the ball much better, but and Bubba Watson there too. He was a guy I was interested in on tournaments. Hole 5, he just makes a mess of it there. I think he hit took him 2 shots to get out of the bunker there or something like that. I mean, he was just kind of in shambles there for a while too. But those guys are definitely guys I thought were going to make some runs here. I mean, Bubba has that great course history here, but it is 3 straight missed cuts for Bubba here at this event. So, I mean, that's something to take notice of. He did win it a couple of times back in like 2016 and 2018, I believe.
Yeah, even a couple years before that, he actually won it every second year for over 6 years to get 3 wins here. So yeah, you nailed it. And that's again back to the course history stuff. I think Colton Oast was talking about. We talked about it coming in. Everyone knows, but on the broadcast, like you can't fake it around this course, and it shows the guys playing well are up there for a reason. You can either, that's why you see guys get to those numbers. Patrick Rogers, our boy Steve in the chat just mentioned it. Yeah, Patrick Rogers, Taylor Pendrith, some of the guys I like dropping down to at the bottom. A lot of the punt plays that we liked did not come through. And then you got to talk about this too, like just going down to even par, because we're going to get to this stuff later when we go through the tiers. But Matsuyama, Cantlay, Rahm, that's the 3 big ones, at least from up top, that just snuck through, barely made it. And they're the guys that were priced up at the top. And Hideki just looked like a pretty good value at 9,300, but he got squeezed between Hovland and you've got Cam Smith and Scheffler. Those guys are all doing their thing. Scheffler coming off the win. So we'll talk about those guys after as we get up to the top. But some of the big names down at the bottom, they're going to come up when we get to the tiers, Snyder. But any thoughts on those? Ricky Fowler made a cut too, by the way. Finally gets to see a weekend. So any thoughts on those guys down to just squeezed in on the cut line?
Yeah, Mr. Flower shoots even par, and makes the cut. I think that's about the only way he's going to make a cut anytime on this tour. But it was interesting watching him. I thought he was going to choke it away there on his last hole, too. He hit his drive on that last hole 208 yards into the native area. I thought for sure he was going to like double or something and miss the cut by 1. But he got there. Rahm made that big putt on 18 to make the cut. Cantlay's another guy. He just looked out of it today. He just didn't look lethargic there. I mean, he was bad across the board. Lost over a stroke ball striking, lost putting, lost basically everywhere. Only hit 55% of his greens. The driver was not accurate at all here. And a guy, Hideki Matsuyama, I was kind of liking him for tournaments today. He did score well today. I mean, he made 5 birdies, but he also made some mistakes along the way as well. He didn't birdie the 11th, the par 5, which you need to make birdie on that hole. The 12th, he made a double with. I mean, it was just pretty. I think he 3-putted on that hole for double or bogey. Some of those other guys like Abe Answer, I wasn't really on him. I mean, Aaron Wise made a comeback this week too. I mean, He missed the cut as chalk last week, and he comes through, barely gets through on the cut line. I think he's like -1 or -2, so it was good to see. Tony Finau, I was pretty high on him, and he just can't put it all together. What did he shoot today? Even par today. Made 4 birdies, 4 bogeys. I was expecting a little more out of Finau. Maybe he's a good weekend play though.
Yeah, bogeyed the last 2. Looking at some of those numbers down there. And the guys in the chat, Wakey's play. Hadwin went sleepy. He went bye-bye too. So pack it in for Wakey. That's 0 for 3 on the specialty plays of the week. But we love Wakey. That was a good show the other night that we did there with him. So happy to have him on and definitely appreciate that. But a couple other guys. We're going to talk about it. But just to point out some dudes down here, Snyder, for when we get into it for the round 3 stuff, like, if you look, like Higgs down at the bottom, we saw what he did, all hole outs and stuff like that. Like he's gaining almost 3 strokes around the greens today because of that. But one guy you liked coming into the week, and I even texted you as soon as you said it. I definitely didn't get him into my mains, but I played him in the $20 quite a bit, is Aaron Rye. Had a really good day, really good on approach, couldn't make any putts. Still 1 under around here. I know people see the Neiman and the Cam Young rounds. They just probably don't fully understand how hard that is to do and how good those guys are playing. So we'll talk about them for sure. And we're definitely going to have some decisions to make on them. I think I know where you're going to go with Neiman. I'm probably going to follow you there, but our guy, we like Cam Young, but Aaron Rye down below, one of the best down below as far as approach on approach goes for strokes gained and just being down at the bottom. Ches Reavie and Vegas look like 2 other guys that you could go to as well. Vegas, I think more so. I liked him coming in. We've seen him play at some of these tougher tournaments like the Players and ones like those in the past where he does show up. So he could be a guy as well down at the bottom. Moving back up to the top, we'll go into it here. I don't know if Big T's in the room yet. You can have a look. If not, we'll keep it rolling. But
he's not in yet.
Let's go through some of these guys at the top. But, your guy, Colin Morikawa. One thing about him, I will say before I kick it to you, and just mentioned in the chat, Mitch brought him up. It was you saying Morikawa actually, but someone brought him up before. Steve, this guy this week is not the same. I mean, look, if you look at it, it's completely different. I think his irons are actually off, and it's surprisingly been a great around the green game, and it slipped a little bit on those last few holes. We were just watching. Obviously, it's very close to the tournament round 2 ending. Just watching him even there at the end. He missed a few putts, slid them over a ball, I would say right, and then on top of it, coming off the fringe and the green side, it wasn't looking good either. So I don't know if you're worried about him at all for the weekend. Just to me, looking at it from the eye test going through that back 9, it's already not his game that we're used to that he's coming through with. And then you go look at a guy like JT there who just looks absolutely dialed. You can see it in his eyes, that long par putt at the end that he had to make just to sneak it through, just to feel good about ending the round, made that as well. So what are your thoughts on some of those guys up there at the top? It'll translate later when we go into the tiers.
Yeah, I think JT's my favorite to win this. I know he's 5 back from Neiman, but I don't care. I mean, we saw both what we were talking about at pre-show about that look in the eye we see on JT. They're down the stretch, making birdie at 16, 17. Should have probably done better on 18, but he was right there. I mean, they're on 11. He makes that eagle. I mean, he was 31-foot eagle on 11 there for to get him to at 7 under for the round at 64. Definitely like him going forward. I think he's one of those guys that, I mean, everybody can be playing this course tough, and he could pop out for like 4 or 5 shots over the scoring average like it's nothing. I mean, he's just that far above the talent there. And Morikawa, I think he's gonna get the irons figured out. I mean, he's just been like, you could tell he was like maybe a few yards off on his iron shots, especially on 18 there. He hit this iron shot like 2 yards past the pin. He looked down and he was kind of discouraged, but he almost made that birdie putt. I mean, he's putting really well. 2.2 strokes gained putting today. I mean, that is amazing for him. Anytime he gains strokes putting, he's usually right there in contention come Sunday. So I expect him to keep things going with the short game, and I expect the irons to kind of turn around. And he's one of those guys that I think could drop like a 63 or something tomorrow. Like we saw Cam Young shot 62 today. We saw JT shoot 64. We saw Neiman shoot 63. So I think that's in the range of outcomes for both JT to replicate that tomorrow and Morikawa to do that as well.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask you about him because I know you're a Morikawa homer. I love him as well. Like I said, I talk about it all the time. We talked even before this tournament coming in about just the ball striker's paradise. I didn't go with you on him on the classic slate, but just thinking about it more and more, myself, Kenny Kim, Fantasy Golf Degenerates podcast, we've talked at times about any of these tougher fields or stronger fields, just lock Morikawa, and then we never do it because he comes with silly price tags like 10.4K, but maybe it's not silly. It stands out when you see it where you don't want to play it. But I think you brought up a good point, and it's one that I think goes very overlooked when it comes to showdown strategy. Everyone does the same thing. They pull up Data Golf or they pull up Fantasy National Golf Club and they go there, look at the stats, who's got the irons on but is missing putts because there's high variance in putting and it means it's going to turn around. It doesn't. Some guys continue to putt well if they are putting well. Some guys don't putt well just because they have their irons on. Their putter is off and it stays off. But one of the things I'd look at with a guy like Morikawa, and I kind of like it, it'll translate in because he's sandwiched in for tomorrow's pricing right between Cam Smith, who had, I believe, the best iron day, maybe the second best to Matt Jones, who we'll talk about later, sitting T14, but it was right there in looking at the numbers on approach with Cam Smith. And then we just talked about JT. It's not just the look in his eyes. That's obviously not how we go about picking golfers. We're just saying he played very well for 2 straight days. And then you see that sort of grit. Guys like, rest in peace, Kobe, but I always say it, like JT's a huge Kobe fan. It's like a Mamba mentality that JT has when he goes out and he gets in this zone. And I personally love it. That's why I love JT so much. But just going back here to Morikawa, first round, all putter and around the green, actually lost strokes on approach. And then you go to the second round today, and like you said, 2.2 with the putter, a little bit around the green, a little bit with the irons coming back around. And I don't think people look at that enough. They look at it and say, oh, it's all putter for him if he doesn't correct his irons. Well, to me, it's almost more likely that the best ball striker in the world, which isn't close, when people look at the numbers, it's Morikawa. There's actually a gap to Justin Thomas, and then there's a huge gap down from there. That's just the way it goes. Rahm is in the mix, and those guys are up there, but best ball striker is Morikawa. And Landa said it in the chat, best golfer in the world. It's definitely arguably in his favor because when you look at one thing that I love to look at is the numbers. We talked on the Wednesday show, I believe, Morikawa versus Tiger in the amount of time and age and everything that they've went through to get in. When he won that second major, they were posting the stats, and he's actually on basically the same trajectory now to get to Tiger's numbers long-term. Very, very unlikely, but you also got to remember the class of the field and what we're up against. This is the world that Tiger built that he has to go up in and play against. So for him to have those numbers, those 2 majors off the bat, those wins like he's got, everything that he's done so far in the limited amount of starts, it's incredible. I should tweet the thing out later. It is actually incredible just to see what he's done in the short period of time he's been on tour. Obviously that class, very good with just, him, Hovland, and then you've got Matt Wolff, who did his thing. I know he's been off and on. We'll get to see him again next week at the Honda. He'll be back. But just talking through it, I do think that's one thing people don't look at enough. It's definitely possible Morikawa fixes his irons, and then even if the putter doesn't gain 2, it might only gain 1. He might chop it in half, but now he's put it in much closer and he's got better chances, so he's given himself that upside. And I think it's very interesting when we get into the strategy for tomorrow, because you can play them all, you can mix and match them. I don't think you want to play everybody in that upper tier, and we'll get there. But just looking at it, like he is squeezed in between Cam Smith and Justin Thomas. So I like that for tomorrow. Anybody else you want to talk about before we get into these tiers? I want to save at least, half an hour to go through that stuff, but leaderboard is pretty littered still. We have a pretty good field here. And then what do you think about Niemann here? Like, well, we can do that conversation real quick and see if Big T gets in here, but just on Niemann, fading him tomorrow. Sure. I get it. You're probably going to do it. I'm likely with you there, but he has been dialed in. I just think it's funny when people are already cashing tickets and stuff out there. Like, oh, if he just shoots even over the weekend, he ships. We don't know that, right? That's how good this field is and what's lurking behind him. Justin Thomas, Adam Scott, Jordan Spieth, Morikawa, Hovland, Cam Smith, to name a few. Max Homa, last year's champion. So what are your thoughts on that, Snyder?
Yeah, if he shoots even throughout the next 2 rounds, he's still going to be at 16. And I mean, there's how many guys on pace to get to 16? There's 5-6 guys right there that if they shoot 1 or 2 under, I mean, they're going to be at that same pace or shoot what they did today. Like Morikawa shoots 4 under every round. He's at 16 under for a total. I mean, so that's kind of something I'm looking at. I'm not going to play Niemann. He's been just red hot. He gained over 3 strokes with the putter today. Our guy Cam Young gained over 4 strokes putting today. I mean, they were both great ball striking as well. But Niemann did struggle a little off the tee, it looks like. I just never play the leaders going into moving day and Showdown. I think that's one of the bigger edges that maybe goes overlooked, as some of these guys will just see the more so in round 4. Well, especially when we get into that later, like on tomorrow and such. But everybody just likes to jam in the top.
Round 4,
guys.
that'll be a fun show tomorrow, because that's exactly what people do. Like what I like to do for round 4 is literally plug in what the top of the leaderboard, the best lineup you can make of that, and then look to make like at least 3, if not 4 pivots, because there's so many guys coming from behind. And then also people never remember that the guys behind, I know it's not easy on a course like this at Riviera to pin seek and come out hot, but the guys don't care, which leads to some of them. I always talk about the variance on Sunday when guys don't give a shit and they're just pin seeking all day because they're already out of it.
Yeah.
Some of them will find that 5 under round or 6 under round or something and just dominate, and they'll be required. And that's round 4. We'll get into that tomorrow. I love the game theory of it. There's definitely more of a strategy aspect here. We're trying to put things together, get different in perspective to what's going on. But you mentioned it with Niemann there. I wonder too with Cam Smith. If you look at Cam Young was all putter on day 1 to have that first round. You think, okay, rookie, 2-time Korn Ferry Tour winner, looks pretty good. Let's see if he can hold up. Had a much better day today. Gained even more with the putter, but actually found his irons. Had a great tee to green game all around. But now how does a rookie hold up going into the weekend of a tournament this big?
More
and then
pressure.
You mentioned it earlier with Tiger Woods. It's Tiger's tournament, but he said in the press conference, looking to make it fast and firm over the weekend. Not sure if we're going to get 2018 U.S. Open fast and firm, where it's sort of bouncing off the greens and they have to make a decision.
Last Saturday.
Last
year Saturday.
If we get that, that'll be crazy. I like the carnage, but I don't know. We'll see what what do you think the winning score will be at the end of this? Let me ask you that.
Ooh, that's a good question. I think the winning score is going to be, I'm going to go with 17 under.
I was going to say 18. I'm with you. I think it's like these guys can get there. Someone from up here, there's just too much talent at the top. I think they'll find it. I believe Homa last year was 18 under? I want to say. I can't remember what the winning score was last year. I can bring it up as we go along. But let's dive into it. Big T joins us. Great. If not, we want to get into it here. We want to make sure we leave enough time. If you guys have questions, you could throw them out in the chat as well. It's our first time. Well, it's second time now. We did it last night with Snyder and Hoop, but getting into this show and doing it. And we're just we're not winging it. We've got all the numbers. We know what we're talking about. We're bringing up the strategy as best we can, but we're trying to make sure it's good from a show perspective to help you guys out as much as possible. So if you have strategy questions, if you have thoughts that you're looking for, anything like that, toss them out there. We're going to do it, break it down into the 3 tiers against Snyder like you guys did yesterday. I believe this is accurate. Yeah, the round 3. So Rom is at 10-7. Go right down to Will Zalatoris at 9K. And just talk about guys you want to talk about within there. Anything that you see that stands out, we can sort of go through it as we go along. But it's a decent-sized range to talk about. And then maybe how you handle it going into tomorrow. If you played 20 lineups, how many of these guys might make it into your lineups?
The top guy in this range is definitely going to be Justin Thomas for me. He's just underpriced here. He's locked in. It's just absolutely elite form coming into this weekend. And this is when he usually makes his runs. He likes to nuke the field sometimes on these Saturdays and Sundays. We've seen it many times, like even last year a couple of times he'll come out. I don't think he's in that position where he's going to be pressing it as hard. But when he's been back before, he's back 5 shots, I think, right now. So we've seen him come out and shoot like 64, 63 in those type of situations. I think it'll be tougher here with this course set up and everything, but definitely like him to shoot at least 3 or 4 under par tomorrow. That would be my projection for him. And then Cam Smith, I don't think anybody's going to go to him. He's my favorite tournament guy in this upper tier with Thomas and Morikawa and Rory and Xander, Hideki. All these guys are under Cam Smith, and Rahm's above him. Cantlay's above him. I don't see many people going to those 2 guys, but I definitely like Cam Smith in this situation. He shot 68 or lower in his last 4 moving days. He gained over 3.5 strokes approach today. Was pretty good with the putter too, so I definitely like Cam Smith here. I was extremely high on him coming into the weekend, so I'm going to kind of double down and back him over on this moving day as he's 10 shots back. So I think he's one of those guys that's going to push on the accelerator, and we see him rattle off some really big birdie streaks at times. And then Morikawa's right there. I think the putter's going to hold true for him this weekend. I think I've seen him putt better towards the end of last year and this year. I've seen that putting improve somewhat. So I'm very hopeful for that going forward. If he can just putt to a 0 in every event, I think he wins 5 or 6 events in a year. I mean, that's kind of outlandish maybe, but I mean, there's so many events where he loses strokes putting and still finishes top 5 and such. But if he can get that putter dialed in, I mean, it's interesting to see the upside that he could hold. I think Rory's fine down there. I mean, kind of a slow start for him, but this is one of those patented spots where he just nukes it on the weekend and backdoors that top 5. And you're looking at the leaderboard at the end of the week, and you're like, how'd Rory get there? He shot 65, 66 over the weekend or whatnot. So I think he's a good spot for a tournament play. I probably won't have as much Xander. I mean, I might have him a sprinkle in some GPPs if I played him. Nice price tag for him. He started out birdie today, but he just couldn't keep the momentum going. So that's another guy to maybe look at for tournaments. And Hideki, I mean, Hideki's a weekend warrior. He shot sub 70 in 7 or 9 of his last 10 events. Or 9 of his last 10 rounds, he shot sub 70 over the weekend. So he's one of those guys that could come out at low ownership. No one's going to want to play him, I don't think, as he's probably going to be going out early. I haven't seen if they're doing split tee times or not yet, but
I was just refreshing it, and it wasn't coming up. I was loading it, and it wasn't popping up yet.
Right on. So he could be one, if they don't do split tee times, he could be going out super early and getting the best conditions. Like Rahm and Cantlay would see those 2. I'd rather go with Hideki over Rahm though, just because the price savings, and I feel like they're both playing kind of the same. I mean, they both come in with good form. Rahm had better form coming in, but I think those 2 are pretty close point per dollar. So I would lean to Hideki for the savings there. But top guys in this range is going to be Justin Thomas and Cam Smith for me.
I like both of those. So I was just looking. I think there's 11 guys up here. I've got 4 I really like, and then I love your Decky call down at the bottom. You mentioned the points per dollar factor matters to me. Like, you're saving it. He can do the same thing. Rahm and Cantlay up at the top. It's not that, they can't do it. We know they're some of the best in the world. They're going to come out and just try and shoot the lowest round possible. That can lead to mistakes too. And to be honest, it's been a pretty rough start for them. So I don't expect that to continue. I like what you said there on Cam Smith. I mean, he's just been top notch. And anytime we've seen him at the Masters a couple times do this, right? Regardless of conditions or not. He's been in there in the strongest fields doing it and surprising people, holding off John Rahm for a whole day to win that tournament, whether it was Rahm's C game or not. I don't care. Still did it. So I like that. JT's the obvious one. We just talked about him enough, but Morikawa being squeezed in there, he's going to make the pool still. I really like the run of four: Smith, Kawa, JT as my three favorites. And then the other two that I would sprinkle in would be the Decky call down there at 9,100 that you mentioned, and then Rory. I just think, look, they'll all get a little bit of ownership, but it's the same thing as we talk coming into Classic, that you can't play everyone, and there's going to be enough sprinkles on all of them. So I'm happier to go to those five and just leave the other six guys alone. Obviously DJ you're not playing because they put him into the price because they thought he might make it. I guess they gave him a thought process there that he would be in it, but that's not the case. So let's keep it moving. Anybody else you want to talk about in this 9K and above range?
I think that's good for me in this range. I just want to be on overweight JT, Cam Smith, and probably Morikawa as well.
Yeah, those three, I think it's plenty. And you can get lineups with two of them in. You can get lineups with three. We'll talk about some of these punt plays down there before, and you'll be surprised. Enough people will still go back to Rahm and say, hey, he got in, he made that par putt on 18 and grinded it. And I get it. Look, I'm hoping for him on Classic Slate. I got enough of him, but it's not even a hedge. I literally watched the entire day today, every shot of his, obviously cut sweating it and seeing what he was doing. And I see more upside in the other guys. And like I said, I think their game is just more dialed in right now. So when you get 2 days of the eye test and the other stuff that goes with it, I'm just going to stick to the guys I see playing well, get my leverage that way going into it. Let's go down here, though. Let's talk about this. Obviously, in this next range, we have Niemann at 8,100. So we spoke a little bit on that, but we've got Hovland at 8,900, all the way down to 7,500, where you've got, four guys here. Our boy Sahith. We got Garcia, Connors, McNeely. I think Connors missed. I don't know why they had these guys in the price. Yeah, Connors missed. So it's McNeely, Garcia, who's playing well, Garcia, and Sahith that down there, up to Hovland at 8,900. What are you doing in this range?
Yeah, I kind of like a few guys here. We got Victor Hovland here. He shot 700 today. That's kind of like more so like weekend round like he usually shoots. Like we see him just sporadically shoot these low numbers. It's usually on like a Saturday or a Sunday too, like backdoor T5, T10 type of event. He's been playing well coming in this event. I think he's won like 3 of his last 6 tournaments or something like that. So he's definitely got everything rolling for him. And I think he just figured everything out today. Everything kind of clicked for him here. So he's a guy that I'm going to be looking to target. I'm going to see what he did. Bogey-free round. I thought he was clean on the card. Over 3 strokes putting, hit most of his greens in regulation. So I like Hovland there. Adam Scott's another guy. The price tag's starting to come up on him and Showdown throughout the last 2 days. But I mean, ever since that first front 9 on Thursday, he kind of played all right. And then that back 9 on Thursday through Friday, I mean, he's just been playing excellent golf. 3rd in ball striking today, 7th in approach, 7th off the tee. He did lose a little bit around the green today, but I think he's another good guy in this range. I think Cameron Tringali is one of my favorite values in this range, down there at 7.6. Nice price tag on him. He was solid all around today. He avoids mistakes for the most part, so I think he's like a safe guy you could plug in for like cash games and such. I won't have Niemann on our playbook on the website. We do that Showdown playbook where we all have our cores on there. It's only for Run Pure subscribers, so I don't think Niemann's going to be making the playbook. As we all know, we like to fade the leader on moving day here at least. And then Tony Finau's another guy. I think he's underpriced, 7,800. Up and down day for him today. He made 4 birdies, 4 bogeys. He does have that good GPP upside, though. He can rattle off some low numbers. Kokrak's another guy in tournaments I like to go for when he's in that 7K range. Spieth down there. I don't think I'm going to play Spieth, but I mean, he's probably liable to chip in a couple times again today. I mean, he gained 3 strokes around the green today, but his approach play and iron play was average at best. I think he's going to be pretty popular as he's up near the lead. So that's the guys I'm mainly looking to target in this range. Probably Hovland and Scott would be the more expensive guys I'm looking to go for, and then like Cameron Tringali for a value guy.
Yeah, these unique price tags were basically got only one guy at this price. And I updated it now and clicked on the remove players who missed cuts, so we're good to go. But I don't mind playing a few more of them. Like I like the Scott call. I like Casey Finau. Those are a couple guys in there that are, that stand out to me just from a numbers perspective and following their rounds today. Love the Tringali call, and I am doubling down on that. I had him in my main lineup with my core over at Run Pure Sports, and I think you look at, today, bogey free. Like you said, just doesn't make the mistakes, had even more opportunities, came out hot with the eagle, and then made another, 16 pars and a birdie was the rest of the round after the eagle he came out with. So that's fine by me. Like I said, if the course gets harder, that's who you want. And that's one of the things that's always funny coming into these tournaments, especially the harder ones with the tougher tracks. It's like, oh, this guy can't putt, this guy can't make anything. And people are like, yeah, but you forget that the 6-footers he's missing are for birdie, which sucks. I know you need those points in the birdie fest, that kills you. But at these tournaments, that's not so bad. It's, the lag putting is there, the ability to get it up tight to the hole, and some of them will drop and you're good to go. And if it doesn't, he usually just leaves himself a foot or two to be able to tap it in. So I like that call. I like somebody else up here too. Homa. Homa's another guy that's been coming through. I did not like him coming in. I talked shit to my boy Haggy. I think I saw him in the chat there. I said, I'm not interested in this guy coming in again to do his thing. But again, look, today he's T10, lost almost 2 strokes with the putter, and still was in there gaining on approach and doing his thing all around the green game, solid. So look, he knows the course. He's good on this course. We know what that is. So I like Homa, Scott, Casey, Finau, and then dropping down Tringali. And then I'll go back to McNeely. I still like him. I liked him in the main too. And I think, again, just being comfortable with it. He had that week off, came back in and ready to play. Looks very good going into this final round. He's up the leaderboard, but if you look at his numbers, they're all solid and just what we know he can do. So I like him at that price tag as well. Is there anybody else that you wanted to talk about, like Sergio, Siwoo, Answer, Kokrak? There's other guys here, but are anybody else you liked in this range that stood out to you?
No, I was going to hit on Mav and Homa, but I kind of overlooked them. I do like both of those guys. I mean, Mav finally had the putter back going. I mean, he's known for doing really well putting on these POA surfaces, so it was good to see him get the putter going again. And then Homa, yeah, like you said, Homa was just solid with his iron play today, but yeah, he lost off the tee too. I think that's going to improve and come back to the mean tomorrow. He just plays so comfortable here. I talked about it yesterday on the show with Hoop about I watched Homa play a lot of his first round, and he just looks so calm and relaxed out there on this course. He grew up playing this place. He plays this place a lot. I think this is one of his comfort zones. So I definitely could see him like last year. I think he shot, what did he shoot, 64 on Sunday to get in that playoff with Finau. So I could definitely see him going low on the weekend again this year as well.
Yeah, he knows the court. That's like I said, and that kind of tied in with that. Even with going back to McNeely too. I like I'm with you on Homa there, of course, but going back to McNeely, he actually lost quite a bit on approach today. Just looking at just round by round, I was looking at overall, comparing it back. But you go back and look at it too. Yesterday, a bunch of around the green. Today with the putter, and you think, oh, that's not going to continue. This is what I talked about earlier with the situation. You look at McNeely; he's gained pretty heavily with the putter. 11 of his last 14 tournaments, not rounds, tournaments, and that's where all these top finishes come from. It's just what he does, and he's much better on POA, much more comfortable with it, being the Cali kid that he is. So I don't think that's going to change as much. I think if anything, he's going to find the rest of his game and have a chance to go in there. And maybe some people fade him just because his irons were off today. But like I said, I think sometimes you got to go the other way with that. It's a very fair price at 7,500. I was also looking it up too here. I want just to see one thing on Garcia. He wasn't good the first day, but pretty steady today. So he's a guy I was keeping my eye on coming in. He was 7,800. He's sort of in the classic slate, which was away from all of the power list and Connors and $7,300, $7,500 guys, or without going up to Gooch and above. Obviously, Fitzpatrick withdrew, but just little things like that I like to look at. So he's right there at 7,500 as well. I could definitely see playing him. Let's move down, Snyder. Let's go to this final range. It's going to be all the rest of the plays, but crazy enough, it starts at 7,400 with Cam Young. We hit it on a little bit earlier, but he is right there with Neiman. He is a rookie on tour. Obviously, a very incredible one doing his thing. 2 Korn Ferry Tour wins coming up. I teased at the start of the week when I always shit on Will Zalatoris, and I said, hey, if you want a $2,100 discount on Willie Z, you can get Cam Young, a guy that actually has won twice on Korn Ferry Tour compared to Will Z only winning once. But I think the talent level is fine. Obviously, Zalatoris has been a better golfer and better career so far, but we have no idea what things look like in the future. And Cam Young is doing his thing right now. So what are your thoughts on him at 7,400? And then who else do you like here in this range?
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to go to him this round. But I do like Russell Knox here. I talked about Russell Knox yesterday. He was one of my favorite guys coming into today's showdown. Paid off really well for us. He made 2 eagles, 2 birdies. He did have a couple bogeys, but he hit 83% of his greens in regulation. I think he's another excellent guy to target going into moving day as well. Mito Pereira, it looks like he finally snapped out of that little funk he was in. Nice little bogey-free 3 under 68 today. He gained strokes across the board today. I think he's a good option down there. We got Keegan Bradley in this range. He's always a boom-bust guy for GPPs. I mean, he could go out there and shoot 65. He could go out there and shoot 80. I mean, he's one of those guys that's pretty volatile, but has high birdie upside. I do like CT Pan down in the cheap range, 6,300. Good price tag for him. He's played pretty good his first 2 rounds. First round was better than today, but today he still made 3 birdies, but he had a couple bogeys to go with that too. But 6.3K definitely allows you to pay up for more of those studs up top, like we want to do. So that's kind of who I'm looking at on first look here on this cheaper range.
Yeah, I like a lot of these guys 7K and up, and I'm with you. I don't really love sticking with Cameron Young. I like kind of going just down below it. I know I owe I got to give some bucks to Uncle T because he got Noren over Connors on me, but I like Noren here. I like these grinders. You talked about Knox. I think of Noren sort of the same, and especially if we get more firm and fast. Again, guys that just don't make a lot of mistakes. They may leave themselves 30 foot for birdie, and that sucks, but then they go and make their par out of it, and they just move on to the next hole. When they have their good opportunities, they usually take advantage. So Noren, Knox, Munoz is playing really well right now. If you look at the numbers for him, very solid across the board today, like one of the best tee to green in general, and he only slightly lost with the putter, but gained heavily on approach, around the green, sort of everything that goes with that. And then I wanted to get your take, and then Steve just asked about it. I think it's fine to go back to him. Aaron Wise had 2 very similar days, actually lost even more with the putter today. So I don't mind. I was going to say him as well. The guys I like here are at least 7,400 to 7. We'll do some of the punt plays in a minute, but Knox, Noren, Munoz, Aaron Wise, and then Matt Jones. I mentioned it earlier with the numbers there. I was looking at it. Matt Jones had some crazy numbers today on the board. If you look, 4 strokes on approach. If that tells you anything. So, yeah, what are your thoughts on Aaron Wise, though? Did you like him at all or going back to the well with him?
Yeah, I could definitely get to Aaron Wise here. He was really good across the board. He's one of those guys that was great approach, great ball striking, but then he lost 1.8 strokes putting he lost. So he's definitely a guy I'll be looking to. Munoz is another guy, great ball striking round he had today. Matt Jones, he's the guy that if you're going to go in here and click on and sort it by like ball striking, I mean, you're going to see Matt Jones pop up at the top, gained over 4 strokes ball striking today. Was good approach, solid around the green, solid off the tee, ranked first in tee to green. But you look at the putting and he's losing 1.6 strokes. So definitely think Matt Jones is a guy that a lot of people may like go to if they're looking at the stats and such. So I think those are all solid options.
Yeah, Bobby Mack down here at 6,800. Another guy you can see a Scotsman with Russell Knox there.
I gave Mangone shit for talking up McIntyre on the bed show. He's probably all upset with me. I think I know why Tony might be ducking us too, because he lost some giblets to me again. Taking Connors over Tringali. He told me Tringali was the worst play on the board.
I think he used that line on a few guys this week, so it's going to work.
Morikawa was the worst guy too.
Yeah, Brooks was the worst, but so was Cow and Spieth. So yeah, we know how Big T does. It's all good. I was going to say though, I do like that with McIntyre. They're not even looking at numbers, just looking at talent. Like I said, I liked him coming in. I teased a little bit on the Wednesday show because I watched the Tuesday show where Mangone said, "You don't know who Bobby Mack is?" Or you were like, "I know of him, but that he's a big time player and one that they have high hopes for Ryder Cup and things like that. Big hitter, lefty that can come out here. We've seen what Bubba's done in the past, so we talked about that a little bit. But very good player, younger guy, solid, and so I think he's interesting at least down here. I talked about Johnny Vegas earlier. Talked about Aaron Rye earlier. Those are 3 of the guys. So Vegas and Rye would be ahead of him, but I do like Bobby Mack there. And then who else? Who else do you like in this range, Snyder? Is there other guys that are standing out to you? Like Redmond, 2017 US Am champ here over Gim, and he's coming out doing his thing, which we haven't seen that in a while. So, he played decent the last couple of tournaments, made the cut and did his thing. So I kind of liked him, but didn't play much in Classic after all. So What are you thinking here in the rest of these guys, sort of 6,500, 6,700 down in that range? Anyone else?
Our guy, Malinetti's down there, 6.1. I mean, we've been on him kind of some last week, and then today he made the playbook. I think he can make the playbook again today. I mean, his ball striking was not good today, but the short game was carried him through. Sam Ryder, maybe I could be talked into him. I was going to ask you what you thought about Kevin Tway. We kind of talked about Kevin Tway some yesterday. He was great off the tee today. Great around the green. I mean, the ball striking approach was not the best.
Wow. Very bad, eh?
Yeah, he's one of those guys that's like literally free, but he can sometimes show some upside. Maybe some Scott Piercy I could be talked into. He was really good with the ball striking. Lost a little bit putting, was pretty much break-even putting. I think Piercy's a guy I could be talked into as well.
Yeah, I didn't really look at him. I wanted to look, though, real quick, because yesterday I know the couple of the guys that we liked there were Adam Long, and he did not have a good day. The first day was carried by the short game, so he's one that sort of stuck out to me on day one, but wasn't really there on day two. And then so I think this could be a sneakier guy down here, but he showed some form a couple weeks ago in California, and I mentioned him early in the week and then just went away from him. It wasn't feeling him as a needed option, but 2 pretty solid days so far for Bo Hostler. First day carried by short game, but if you don't know Bo Hostler, that's pretty much his thing. Kind of like what we talked about earlier with McNeely, that's what he does. And then today really picked it up, gained on approach, still had the solid putter and around the green game. 2 days back-to-back, 2 under. He's 6,100. That's, Stewart's there at 6,000, but at 6,100, I don't think many will play Hostler, and I think he's a sneaky way to fit everything in. My dad loves Kevin Tway. He's been coming on lately doing some work, but man, like you said, that number just sticks off the page when you look at the approach today. I like your CT Pan call. I think Reavie. So my 3 down here would be like Hostler, Pan, Reavie, and then that's pretty much it. Going above that, sort of the 6,500, I mentioned Doc Redman, Aaron Rye for sure, McIntyre, and Vegas. I want to look at a couple while we're live here. You can go if you want, but Kazire. Yeah, I could play some Patton. Patton had solid ball striking on day one, good putter. Today lost the putter completely, but still had it in on approach. So I could play him. And then I want to look at 2 more. I want to look at Laird. Laird is similar. So I think Laird and Patton Kazire, just pick who you want there. If you want to play them both, you could. But those 2 have very similar numbers. And then there was one more guy I wanted to look at. Oh, Pat Perez, our boy on the talking workbench all the time. What was he doing today? Pretty good 2 solid rounds as well. So you don't need to play all these guys, but I do think it's interesting sort of look into some of them and then just see what fits your builds and go off who you've got a sort of gut feel on, because it is hit or miss. If you got enough lineups, you can definitely just swap out one guy if it's the punt play, especially because you don't necessarily want to just use them all, especially if you're not as high like we aren't on Rom and guys at the top. We prefer some of that more balanced structure with Kawa, JT, some of those guys. But what other thoughts you got here, Snyder, before we get out of here?
Maybe I could play Aaron Rye again, especially I'm not sure on the tee times yet, but he could be another guy that's going out super early. He's right at even par, 6,800. I think he's fine. And then I was overweight on KH Lee coming into this event for my MME classic build, so I could see myself going right back to him some too. 6.6K is pretty good. The ball striking hasn't been there for the 2 days, but he's still like scrambling and he's scoring well for how bad he's hitting the ball here.
Who was that last guy you just said?
KH Lee.
KH Lee, yeah. I heard the Rye, and then I pulled up, and Tee Times did update, so I got excited and dozed off for a second. So good news. So we got it. So this is the good news. We can recap or finalize with this stuff, but they are going off split tees, starting out early. So you got guys going off on the first tee, Van Rooyen, Garcia, and Xander. And at the same time on T10 is going to be Sam Ryder, Laird, and Kokrak. So not going to go through all of it. If you guys want to go to PGAtour.com, you can go to Genesis and then go to the tee times. But some of the guys out early, just, you mentioned it there, like, Zalatoris, Casey, Redmond, Lanto. We didn't talk about a lot of these guys, but some of them are in the mix. Noren goes out pretty early. Rory, KH Lee, you just mentioned it. He does go off 9, 10 a.m. So I'm not sure what time zone this is based off of. I'm assuming it's local, but
I kind of like going for some of these guys going off on the back nine too, because they get start off with that easy, short, drivable par 4, and then they get the par 5, and then on that wraparound, they get the par 5 at 17. 18 is tough, but then again, they get the easiest hole on the course as another par 5 there on the first hole. I could see that being maybe a slight advantage. So like a Jason Kokrak there, or your guy Doc Redmond fits that bill. Lanto Griffin's right there. Alex Noren.
Yeah, I like
Rory.
Lanto and Doc in there, like that. Kokrak, they're all fine. I just, Ryder, you mentioned Laird's a grinder. Like they can find something. That's where I think you want to roll with it. Noren is out there pretty early. Finau, who we like. So if you know what I'm targeting, guys, it's like Finau for sure. Noren, maybe that makes Patton Kazire my tiebreaker there because he's in the mix there with Finau in that group. So I kind of like if guys are doing well, maybe the others can play off of it. So I like that aspect of it. And even within the first half hour, you still see guys like Abe Answer out there, but then it kind of heads off. So I kind of like that strategy, but you guys can always look into it further. Like I said, you go to pgatour.com, head to Genesis, and go to Tee Times. I think that'll do it, though, Snyder. Any final thoughts for round 3? Any strategy? Anything else you want to talk about? And yeah, Noah, see you in the chat there, man. Appreciate it. We just mentioned it and went through. It is the split Tee Times, and it is going to be make for a good day because they'll get out of there at a decent time versus just roll it all out and have to worry about darkness and whatnot, hopefully at least, depending on how the shots go and how hard this course gets. Any final thoughts?
I think it's going to be interesting watching this final group. They're going off in threes, and JT's with Young and Neiman. And if JT starts out how he finished today, he could just strike the fear of God in these two, and you could see those two crumble, I think. So it'll be interesting to watch if they can hold their own if JT's playing how he finished today. So that'll be fun to watch, I think.
Yeah, and that's sort of the, I guess, underrated things when you look at it. Again, there's no super set, there's strategy in every game. That's why we play these games and they're fun. But in these showdowns, you have to make some decisions, and it's not quite the same as other sports that we play, NFL, NBA, things like that, where if this, then that. NBA, you might say, if I'm playing Giannis, who's the guy on the other side of that game that's going to push his ceiling to be able to hit? Football, we're playing the quarterback, stacking it up with the wide receiver and maybe the tight end and running it back because this happens, then that happens. But one of those things you just put together, I bet there'll be a lot of lineups tomorrow that have JT, at least 2 of JT, Neiman, and Young. And I would love to build my JT lineups with neither of them and say that him going off, you're telling a story with the lineup of if JT crushes, maybe those two guys struggle. We've seen it happen. We saw it with Rahm, with Scheffler and Spieth on day one. Those two went to town, and Rahm really struggled because of it. It wasn't because of them necessarily, but you can see how it gets to them, and they're more agitated because of little things like that. They can start making mistakes, and if you think JT steps up, that could be almost a rule that you set up, or if you're just building your lineups that way. I think that's definitely an interesting strategy to look at. Maybe on the flip side, Ricky could have a good day. Ricky's playing with Cam Champ and Joel Damon. I think he's about as good as them at this point in the sense that he's not that good. These guys maybe are better than him at this point, but maybe that makes him feel good about his Saturday round. But I think that's going to do it. We went through quite a bit. Appreciate you guys. If there's any feedback, by all means, hit us up. If you're a member, get in the Discord. Let us know. If you're not, join. Why not? Hit the like button on the way out. Keeps these shows free. I appreciate that for sure. And we will have a show tomorrow night. I believe it's myself and AP going to be doing the round 4. Are you hopping on, Snyder, or is it just...
No, I think I'm going to be out of town.
Okay, so it'll be myself and AP at least, if not somebody else, but we'll get through it. A lot more game theory and strategy. We'll talk more about that tomorrow. Good luck to you guys. Other than that, thank you and good luck.